Are you fed up with all those modern computers on wheels? Would you like an old-school off-roader? I have great news! The SsangYong Rexton is here!
The SsangYong Rexton is a midsize SUV that has been in production since 2001. Initially, it used the Mercedes ML engines, but over time these were replaced by the Korean powertrains, although still mated to Mercedes G-Tronic transmissions. The second generation debuted in 2017. It shares the body-on-frame design with the Musso pickup. For 2020, the Rexton underwent a facelift. The car now features a prominent radiator grille, which would not look out of place on a recent BMW SUV. Also, an 8-speed automatic transmission was added. SsangYong's styling is uncomplicated, but the car has presence. The Rexton is similar in size to the Kia Sorento, Lexus RX, Mercedes-Benz G-Class or Toyota Land Cruiser, although its character is closer to that of the slightly larger Highlander.
And since SsangYong is a niche brand in Europe, not everyone knows what they're looking at. Now, this can either add prestige or just the opposite, as someone could think this is a Chinese knockoff of another European model. Now, SsangYong's slogan in Poland is "more than you think," and in my opinion it perfectly captures what this car is all about. We'll start with the powertrain. The diesel has a displacement of 2.2 liters. It produces 202 horsepower and 441 newton-meters of torque. The curb weight is between 2 and 2.2 tons. The rear-wheel drive version is the lighter one, and the heaviest is an all-wheel drive with the optional third row of seats. This test car is a 5-seater version, all-wheel drive.
And since it's an all-wheel drive car, I'll perform my diagonal approach test. The first try is just to show you what happens when the front wheels are disconnected. Under normal circumstances, the Rexton works just in rear-wheel drive mode. You're supposed to use 4 high only on slippery surfaces. We are talking about mud, snow, sand, wet grass, but not wet tarmac. As expected, the car doesn't make it because all the power escapes through the rear wheel spinning in the air. The second attempt is in 4 high mode with traction control on. I tried to turn it off, but in 4 high mode I couldn't. With traction control on, the power does not escape through the wheel without traction. And the third attempt is in 4 low. Here the traction control is automatically turned off, and you can see that the right rear wheel, the one with limited traction, starts to spin faster, because traction control doesn't stop it. According to the manual, when there's a big speed difference between the rear wheels, the differential lock on the rear axle should work. Perhaps it works better in sand or mud, but here it doesn't seem to do its job.
The Rexton with rear-wheel drive can tow up to 2.7 tons, with all-wheel drive up to 3 tons with rear independent multi-link suspension, or up to 3.5 tons with a solid axle. The latter comes in the base and mid-spec, but in the mid-spec you can order optional independent multi-link suspension, and then you can tow 3 tons unless you pay for 3.5 ton homologation.
SsangYong doesn't provide acceleration figures for the Rexton, so I did my own tests. In comfort mode I got 11 seconds, in sport mode 10.6 seconds. Not too shabby for a small barn. Fuel consumption of 8 liters per 100 kilometers combined is achievable. With a 70-liter tank, this gives you a range of about 800 to 900 kilometers, depending on driving style and road conditions.
The Rexton surprised me on the highway, where it proved to be quiet and rather stable. Just forget about driver assistance systems, because these, like in older Kias and Hyundais, make a lot of noise and they don't do anything else really. Fortunately, in the Rexton you can disable them permanently. Now, you have to remember you are driving a big off-roader. This car wobbles in every direction, and to make a 90-degree turn, start turning the steering wheel like 2 blocks earlier. However, in the city at about 50 kilometers per hour, you feel like you were driving 120. But this doesn't bother me at all. I realize this is a body-on-frame off-roader. I don't expect the Rexton to handle like an X5. Just keep in mind what you're driving and act accordingly. Oh, there's a lean. Besides, the Rexton is unlikely to be bought for the city. I imagine it's going to be used somewhere in the countryside, where you might need to go over some gravel roads before you get from your house to the tarmac. On all-terrain tires, the Rexton will be in its element.
But even in your country estate, you don't have to give up such luxuries as a 360 camera. It's available as a part of an equipment package on the top spec model, but it is possible to have it. And something I haven't seen in this form in other cars before is a button that allows you to leave the car in neutral after turning the engine off. In cars with automatic transmissions, there is usually either a button that allows you to shift the lever from park to neutral in case of an emergency, or in case of shift-by-wire systems, like in this case, there is some sort of emergency override. Here, there is a separate button in plain sight. Why? I heard a suggestion it's for pushing tightly parked cars, well, or for towing the Rexton away, I guess.
The Rexton's cockpit, which by the way sounds very dodgy, is spacious and comfortable. There are large door pockets. In front of the driver is a display with several data presentation themes. Next is the infotainment system, which is touch-based, but it also has a couple of hard shortcut buttons. Now, lower are buttons and a knob for the air conditioning and heated seats. The heated steering wheel button is on the steering wheel, which is a good place. I noticed that while the heated seats reset with the ignition, the heated steering wheel remains always on.
There is a wireless charger, 2 USB ports, cup holders, and a knob to engage all-wheel drive. The USB ports are in such a place that the cable will always stick out, and you will need it if you want to use Android Auto. And because the cable sticks out, and you'll be touching it all the time, Android Auto will keep disconnecting. Couldn't the USB ports be hidden under the armrest? The storage compartment is big enough for just a smartphone, and that's where they could have put the wireless charger as well. The infotainment system itself looks dated, like those of Hyundai and Kia from many years ago. If it weren't for the fact that there are some basic car settings in it, I'd be happy to rip it out and replace it with any double DIN unit with built-in Android Auto. The glove box is average size.
Worth noting is the upholstery, which looks very elegant. There is some stitching here in front of the passenger, and it's also on the seats. Now, the seats are electrically operated with optional lumbar support adjustment for the driver. Memory settings are part of an equipment package. There are 3 settings, and these are only available on the highest trim level. Just remember that in order to store your setting, you need to stop, put the car in park, then press whatever set 1, and then it works.
The doors cover the sills, but like in the Highlander, some dirt gets under the seals here too. In the rear, there's plenty of legroom and headroom, USB ports, AC vent, an armrest with cup holders, and large door pockets. The backrest angle is adjustable, and the side seats are heated. Not only can the backrests be folded down, but when they are folded down, the entire seat can be raised, greatly increasing cargo space. However, this requires moving the front seats further forward than my driving position. I am 175 centimeters tall, and in this position, I would not want to drive for a long time. I guess it's an emergency solution. Speaking of the driving position, Anna and I have our settings saved, and we both find a comfortable position behind the wheel. Anna, who's 160 centimeters tall, seems to be delighted with the Rexton. Perhaps the relaxed nature of the car appealed to her even more than it did to me.
The boot capacity is 820 liters in 5-seat configuration, 1977 liters with the rear seats folded. I really like those storage compartments here on the sides. It's a pity there's nowhere to stow the cargo cover. In 7-seater configuration, there is like an extra double floor thing that gives you a flat loading area. Now the load lip is high, it's 80 centimeters, so on rainy days we have to use a towel to actually reach in to get stuff that sort of fell in deeper there. I suggest you get one of these permanently. Meanwhile, the tailgate is pretty low for this high a car. If you're 185 centimeters or taller, you might find this a problem, and I tried pressing the button and lifting it. No, you can't. This is it. Oh.
Prices of the SsangYong Rexton start at €45,490 for the crystal trim. This top sapphire trim starts at €55,490. With options, this car costs around €60,000.
I get the Rexton and I like how relatively uncomplicated it is. Also, when you think it costs as much as a subcompact BMW X1 crossover, you are getting a lot of car for your money. And how do you like the SsangYong Rexton? Let me know in the comment section below.
If you like my sarcastic, down-to-earth and possibly mildly amusing car reviews, join me every Friday at 3 p.m. Central European Time, and don't forget to subscribe and like this video as it helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.